Welcome to Make It Make Sense, Understanding Behavior Language. I'm Elle Hart. Every day we experience moments that leave us wondering, why did she react that way? Why does he always do that? Why are they so annoying? Why did I take that so personally? Essentially, why can two people experience the same exact situation and walk away with completely different reactions? Those questions fascinate me because I've learned they're not necessarily to do with who's right or who's wrong, but more to do with how we each naturally think, act, and relate, what I refer to as our personal process, which is unlike anyone else's and is expressed through our unique behavior language. Each episode is an invitation to explore one simple idea through that lens, offering a different perspective with the intention of getting along better with ourselves and one another. And it doesn't stop here. You're invited to join the conversation with Make It Make Sense Live. Details at the end of the episode and in the show notes. I'm glad you're here. Let's dive in and make it make sense. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today as we explore the idea between needing clarity and needing control. And this was inspired to me because last week I saw a video where this guy was talking about his perspective is if you need clarity, that's often used as a crutch in terms of feeling why you feel stuck, why you feel anxious, because you keep needing to understand something. And I really wanted to explore that because obviously I talk all the time about understanding. I mean, I wrote a whole book on understanding the natural way that you think, act, and relate. It has so much to do with my self-intelligence model and behavior language and understanding our personal process. So I've been really diving into this and thinking about it a lot. And these are a few things that I came up with in terms of it. And I made a couple notes here on the side just to make sure that my thoughts were clear in the way that I explain them. So, understanding isn't about knowing what happens next. It's about knowing yourself well enough to decide what you do next. So, when we understand or need clarity to be able to conduct ourselves, in terms of, boy, I really want to know what this person meant before I respond in my email or whatever it is. I really need to know why they did it that way instead of this way before I make a decision on which way I want to do it. Instead of, I need to understand this so I can let them know if they're right or they're wrong. There's a big difference there. And so, again, I need to understand why this is happening so I can figure out how to make it stop, how to change it, prevent it, or get the outcome that I want. That's the understanding that you need clarity in order to control. Because if I don't know what is exactly happening here, I'm not going to be able to take control over it, not me, but it or you. And so a lot of times this does come out of the anxiety of you have this need to know what is going to come next. What is going to happen? How is this going to play out? In what way is it going to affect me and my life? And what can I do to change it, to prevent this from happening because it scares me and it worries me and it's uncomfortable to me. So I need to understand it so that I can manipulate what is going on in order to make myself feel more comfortable so that I don't feel anxious. And that is not going to help because you are trying to seek external ways of settling yourself and feeling calm and feeling okay with what's happening. But when you understand yourself and you put the focus there, that will help you deal with whatever it is that is coming at you. And it can be small stuff and it can be huge life-changing things. It can be normal transitions that we go through in life. And that is something that I talk about a lot too, because those are the clients that I tend to work with the most. Are you going to get married? Are you having a baby? Are you about to empty nest or retire or start a new job? There's so many different natural life transitions and milestones that we go through, but the unexpected and not knowing what that looks like and not having clarity on how it's going to go can be very unsettling and unnerving for a lot of people. So they seek that in order to control it, whereas I help you control you while you're dealing with it. There's a big distinction there. And so I would like for you to take a moment and think about that for yourself. What does that look like? How many times have you found yourself trying to seek understanding in order to control the situation? I mean, I have done that a million times with my kids, with my work, with my relationships, all kinds of things. And it doesn't get you very far. Instead, when you flip that into, I need to understand what's happening around me and gain clarity on that so that I know now, how does that fit into my natural way of thinking? How does that work with my natural way of relating and acting? And then how am I going to be able to best respond to that situation? Is it something that I feel like I need to take responsibility for? Does that come naturally to me? Or is that something that I really struggle with? Is that something where there's a problem in front of me that I feel like I need to solve? Does that come naturally for me? Is that something that I struggle with? Well, how can I lean into it? How does it show up for me? Because we use all the behaviors, whether they come naturally to us or they really cause us to struggle. We're going to be faced with all of them. We can't necessarily avoid certain behaviors. You can't avoid being positive. It's just something that is going to be presented to you where there's a situation that it requires a positive, optimistic outlook. Maybe that doesn't come as naturally to you. So that is something that you need to work on it through something that does come naturally to you. And I know I've mentioned that before in another podcast. And that is something that I dive into when I work with people one-on-one, because it's very detailed as to you and how things show up for you. But that's just a general example. So again, if we take a pause and we think about, why do I need clarity? How is it going to serve me? What is it that I'm looking to get out of it? Ask yourself all those questions and a variety of similar ones before you can figure out if this is something that you're gaining actual clarity or if you're trying to understand a situation to control it. And then you can take the pause there and you can self-adjust and you can be mindful as to how you approach it then, how you do go forward. Because yes, we are going to be faced with all kinds of situations in life that we are going to want to be able to control. And if it's anything outside of yourself, you're not really going to be able to control that. And especially if another person is involved. That is something that is going to cause tension and friction in that relationship the more you try to control it or them. So instead, this is where it comes into, again, knowing your personal process. And I know I keep talking about that, and I'm going to take a moment here. I'm going to dive into what is your personal process. For those of you who have not read my book or have not worked with me yet and understand what I mean by that, I'm going to give you some clarity so that you can understand that better. Personal process to me is just the natural way that we approach life. And the way that helps me be able to bring clarity to that for other people and first myself. This is how I started with all of this is I needed some clarity on how to conduct myself with all my new things I was going through in my life at the time. And it was very settling for me and really reduced my anxiety about that time in my life when I felt like I had a really good understanding of what was going to work best for me. Because so often we play in areas that are not natural to us. They don't work best for you. You're doing that because that's what you think you're supposed to do, or you should do, or you've seen other people do and you're trying to emulate them. Or maybe it's been put on you by other people and they expect that of you because we all try to get people to do things the way that we would. It's human nature because that's what usually brings us the most comfort. But when you learn that about yourself and you can honestly look at it and you clear those smudges away from your self-awareness lens and you can then go into the place where you're like, yes, I feel comfortable and knowing that this is my best route. This is my best way to approach life or this specific situation or these people or this role that I'm taking on. I know how to conduct myself because of what comes natural to me. And I understand the things to try to stay away from because they don't serve me so well. And the way that I break that down for people is I use an external tool that gives you an unbiased, objective depiction of what that personal process looks like. It is not something that we meet several times and then I decide for you or I tell you my perspective of what your process is after we've gotten to know each other. That is not the way that it works. This is all done through a third-party assessment that ranks 34 traits, behavior traits that we all use, but we all use differently. Because here's the reason why I picked this assessment to use, because it helped me and I know it helps other people, mainly because it does not put you in a category or a box with a lot of other people that you may not really be like. You may have some similarities too, but when it comes down to details, it is not really exactly the way that you function because we all have our own independent, unique way of doing that. So with this assessment that I use, no two people on the face of the earth will ever have the same exact results. This is your blueprint. This is your behavior DNA in terms of how you go about life, your process. What is most natural to you? What is least natural to you in your behaviors and the way that you conduct yourself? So a couple examples of that is like maybe you're somebody who thinks that everything happens for a reason and it's all meant to be. And so you overall can be fairly chill on things because you understand or you believe that there is a higher power at play, whatever that might look like for you. This is more of a spiritual thing than a religious thing. And you believe that we are all connected. And so we all end up interacting together in the way that we're meant to in the way that we're meant to. And so if things happen in your life that maybe you don't want happening in your life, you can pause and you can naturally, easily look at it and say, I know there's a reason for this. I might not understand what that reason is right now, but I understand that there is. This was meant to happen, and maybe it's something that I will figure out why it happened later on down the road. Maybe you get fired from a job, and it is devastating because it's either a career that you really enjoyed and felt a lot of fulfillment from, or It put food on the table and a roof over your head. And now all of a sudden, that security in life is gone. And like I said, that can be very devastating. But if you have in your natural process the way to look at things and think about it, okay, this was meant to happen. I'm not really sure what that is now. Maybe this is a sign telling me that it's time to take that leap and go ahead and start my own business. Maybe this is a sign telling me that I need to switch directions and try something else in life. There can be all kinds of reasons for it, and you're not going to necessarily know exactly what that is, but you are open enough to explore those. And you have the mindset to be able to handle that then in that capacity. Now, that is just one behavior in your process. There are going to be all kinds of other ones that play into each other. And that's why there isn't a specific definition for each one, because they each have their own meaning based on which other ones show up around it. So maybe you have that, but you also have a very natural outlook of being able to peel back the layers of a problem in order to come up with a solution. So now you've gotten fired, and you understand there's a message for me in here somewhere. This is a sign that there is something else meant for me in life. Now I'm going to go in and peel back what this problem looks like and come up with a solution and explore that. And then maybe you're very strategic about that. And you're like, okay, I'm going to come up with this plan, and I'm going to create this idea, and I'm going to explore what this alternative way of going about my career could look like. And you look through all of those solutions, and then you decide for yourself, which one do you think you want to pursue? Which one really doesn't make sense for you? And you go through this process and you lean into these things that are natural for you. And that is what's going to get you to the outcome that you're looking for. Because if you start spending time in areas that don't serve you well, maybe you start comparing yourself to other people, and that does not serve you well. That is in the bottom of your process. And you're like, oh, but so-and-so has a similar job that I had and they didn't get fired. What do they do right that I did wrong? What is going on with them that isn't going on with me? Or vice versa. And you start comparing, and oh my gosh, I'm such a loser because of this. That's going to take you in a dark place. That line of thinking is not going to help you get to any sort of outcome that is going to help you. So that's why it's important to understand when those little nasties show up, as they do very often. You can understand and know, wait a minute, that line of thinking does not serve me well. Because for some people it does. For some people, comparing yourself to where other people are is their motivation. That's their juice. So it isn't just a standard, oh, that's obvious that isn't going to work for you. Because that's not the case for everybody. It might be obvious for you, but it might be different for somebody else. And as I often say, different isn't wrong. So you're exploring that for yourself, and you're able to realize, here I'm dealing with this situation where I just got fired from my job. How do I go about thinking about it, acting on it, relating to it, exploring it, figuring out solutions, all of the things that need to be taken care of when you're facing a situation such as that, or several other typical situations that happen to us in life. And you know what's going to work best for you. And then you also know what is not going to serve you well. And then you can stop yourself. And yes, we can feel this in ourselves. But honestly, when you're dealing with something, whether it's an everyday issue that's just frustrating and you're tired of it because it keeps showing up over and over again, or it is something big and life-changing like losing a job, often you don't really listen to those feelings very well because there's so much going on and it gets clouded. And that's where those smudges come in on our lenses. And we don't see ourselves very clearly at those moments, especially We have a hard enough time seeing ourselves really clearly when things are going easy in life and smooth. That is difficult enough in itself. But now you're facing a challenge. Oh, that's where those clouds really come in. That's where those smudges take over. And you're looking through lenses that just aren't giving you any clarity at all. And that's what flips that switch into making you want to control the situation. And you can't control if you've lost a job. You can control what you do that might lead you to losing a job. But if it has nothing to do with actually you and your work, maybe your company's making budget cuts. Maybe they're reorganizing. Maybe they think for some crazy reason they can replace you with AI, and they will soon find out that they can't, that AI is a tool, not a replacement. But any of those things could be happening that would lead up to something like a job loss that are completely out of your control. So you can gain all the clarity and try to understand, but it isn't going to change the situation. You're not going to be able to control that. What you can do is have clarity in yourself, lean into your process. How can I deal with this now? How can I move forward instead of letting this cause me to feel stuck? And when you are feeling stuck, then you'll know that you are playing in those bottom areas of that personal process. And when you're mindful of this concept, that helps you snap out of it so much faster. Trust me, I have experienced that so many times where I jump down there and I start wallowing in that area and I'm like, wait a minute. I see this. What am I doing? No, these are my bottoms. This does not serve me well. What does serve me well? Oh, yeah, all of these things. Which one works best for me to get started? And I often tell people that that is the one that is in the center of that process for you. And for me, that is communicating. I need to talk it out. I need to share it with somebody else. I need to get their perspective because remember, communication isn't just talking, it's listening. I need to hear what they might have to say about it because they have their own process. They have their own way of looking at situations and they're objective more because it isn't happening to them. So they can look at it a little bit more clearly. I often share my opinion with people because it's part of my process. But I have learned how to be very mindful of doing that, at least trying to do that in a way that it does not come with judgment, that it does not come with shooting on people, that it does not come with, this is what I'm telling you you need to do. It comes more from, here's my perspective, here's through my experience, here's through things that I have seen, watched, listened to, learned from, that I am sharing with you. And then I set that boundary up and I let them determine what they're going to do with my opinion, with that situation. And you often hear that, oh, we shouldn't tell people our opinion. We should just let them work it out for themselves. I value other people's opinion. I often need that. And that is why, again, we put our things on other people, right? So I naturally honor this is the way that I do things. This is natural for me to share this. If it isn't natural for you, then of course, I'm not going to put you on the spot and tell you, you have to give me your opinion. You have to say whatever to me. You have to give me your beliefs, your values, your whatever it is surrounding something that I might be going through. I can't expect or think that other people are going to do it the same way that I do it. But for those that do share, I value that because I want to listen and see things from somebody else's perspective. Because when I'm struggling with something, I can get very clouded. And that's where, again, lean into your process. Know what works for you to help clear those clouds so you can see with clarity what the best route is for you. How do I handle this situation? Let me figure out why this keeps happening to me. And maybe it isn't job loss. Maybe this is just the everyday stuff. Why does this keep happening to me? Why do I feel every day like I'm so annoyed with this over and over again? And I can't, I've been trying to control the outside situation and I can't. Now I have to figure out how I can reduce my own annoyance. How do I handle that? And that comes from not only knowing your personal process, but knowing how to speak your behavior language. And that means just honoring yourself, doing things that work best for you, but realizing that that is not going to be the same situation for other people. That is understanding their behavior language. Oh, I might naturally reach to the past and say, okay, what happened in years prior? What happened in previous situations that were like this? And pull from that. That isn't my process, but it is for some people. So you pull from all of that. History is your guide, and you try to repeat what you've learned in the past, and you value that in what it is that you're facing today. That might work for you in handling why you're so annoyed with things. Oh gosh, because we keep doing that over and over when really this worked in the past, so I need to get back to that again. And that helps you reduce your annoyance, reduce your anxious feelings, reduce your frustration with other people, because that's what works for you. If I tried that, that would not work for me. So if you understand one another's behavior language, then it's so much easier to be able to relate to one another, because I am not, somebody isn't going to come to me and say, well, if you just look back to the past, then that will help guide you. They would know that, oh, wait a minute, that works for me, but that doesn't work for her. And that's okay. You don't have to go about it the same way I do. I can share with you, hey, this is what works for me, especially if you don't know somebody else's behavior language, because we're not going to be able to know that. So the best way to handle that is, this is what works for me. These are some things that I try. These are some things that I can lean into and I know are going to help me see things forward, see through what it is I'm dealing with. Give me clarity without the need to control. Maybe some of these will work for you, and then that's up to you to decide. Knowing your process, does this work for me? Yeah, that also works for me, but I put this kind of twist on it, but I use this behavior along with it. And so I use it this way instead of exactly the same way they do. But yeah, that general idea is going to be able to help me out. Or, nope, that's going to cause me more stress. That is not going to work for me. That is not going to help me feel like I have more clarity. That's going to make me want to control situations. Because when we are stressed, that's what we reach for. We naturally try to control so that our stress is reduced. And so, again, where clarity is different than that need to control and what that looks like for people. So maybe there's a situation where two people are having a disconnection about something. And this could be two people who are in a great relationship. These can be two people that are maybe parent-child and they're in the phase of life where it's kind of like oil and water. These can be two people that work together, and generally things, can kind of go smoothly, sometimes not. It sort of depends on the situation. And maybe one person is all about like, I need to understand, like, not only understand this, but I need to know, I need to gain knowledge. I need to take another class. I need to watch another video. I need you to explain it to me again. Do you have a book maybe I could read that will give me more information on this? And maybe that's not how somebody else operates. And they're like, oh my gosh, really? Like, how many times do you need to be told this? How many times do you have to see this in order to get it? And that can be very frustrating for you. And so you try to control that situation and squash their need to learn more about something before they feel like they have clarity on it. And so now you're trying to control them instead of understand this is what they need to help them out. This is not necessarily, maybe you're somebody who's like, hey, you just jump in with 2 feet and you start going and you just do it. And that's how you're going to figure it out. And that could scare somebody like fear, like they would just be petrified of that idea of thinking like, wait a minute, I can't do something without really knowing it first. And other people are like, yeah, you can. You totally can. And that's how you learn and you make mistakes. And it's just a different behavior language. And it's just that learning each other in order to figure it out. So I lost power there for a moment. I lost, or not power, but internet. So I got cut off. I'm back again. I'm not sure what this is going to look like in the podcast in terms of still shows I'm recording. So I'll look back over this and see what happens and try to use it because I was deep into the conversation. But sorry about that interruption. Hopefully, this will just go on smoothly. So, we were exploring the difference between needing clarity and what that looks like for you, and the difference of what it means if you actually need to try to control and need certainty. Because a lot of times it isn't just about that control of other people or outside things. Sometimes we need that clarity to even feel like ourselves before we can move forward, before we feel certain. And a lot of people need certainty in life before they can take a next step, before they can make a decision, before they'll commit to something. And when you know your process, you can trust in yourself more so that you don't need quite as much certainty, or you get to that level of certainty faster and you're not stuck then wondering. So sometimes if you're feeling stuck, whether it's a big thing that's going on in your life or even just stuck in everyday life, whatever it is that might be happening, stop and ask yourself, what is it that I need to feel certain about right now? And how can I get myself there? If you know your process, you're going to understand what to lean into to help you get there. If you don't know it, it might take you a little bit more trial and error, but that's where you listen to your gut then. If I do this, is it going to help me? If I do this, is it going to make me feel a little bit even more uncomfortable? And you start listening to that then if you're not sure and you haven't seen what your process entails. And so that idea of certainty can be a big factor in this as well. So it's control of other people and certainty within yourself, where we often seek clarity. And when we do it with the right intention, and we know how we're going to use the information that we're looking for when we ask why, and we're exploring understanding something, then that is going to help you. If you don't really know what that intention is and you're just, I need to understand why this person did this before I can do that. And I need to understand why, they would go about it this way, why they made that decision instead of the other decision. Why other people are doing what they're doing. And if you're truly looking to have clarity on it, then that involves understanding their personal process. What does their behavior language tell you about them and how they conduct themselves? Or is it, I actually am seeking to be able to control this situation and to control people a little bit more than what I should be in terms of I really just need to adjust my questioning and ask why and seek understanding to take control over my person and my reactions and my responses and my decision making and how I'm going to handle whatever it is that's in front of me. So I feel like I have talked this through, and if you have any questions on it, Please let me know or join me next Tuesday on my live and we can dive into this together. In the meantime, though, I am going to leave you with this question. It's a challenge for you. Am I trying to understand this so I can accept what is, or so I can make it become what I want? Until next time, take care. Thanks for joining me for another perspective shifting discussion. If this episode made you think of someone, brought up a situation, or left you with a question, don't let it stop here. These conversations become even more meaningful when they're shared. I'd love to have you join me for Make It Make Sense Live, Behavior Language Conversations, every second and fourth Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we take these ideas off the podcast and into real conversations with real people. Whether you come to ask a question, share your experiences, or simply listen, there's always a seat in the Zoom room for you. You can also learn more about my work, my book, and upcoming conversations at feelempoweredeveryday.com. Until we meet again, remember, when behavior makes sense, relationships get easier, life becomes lighter, and you feel empowered every day.